right, Justin Danhoff is standing by from the Free Enterprise Project at the National Center for Public Policy Research. We've had Justin on before and always talking about the Free Enterprise Project shareholder activism, which actually has paid some dividends. We'll get to that in a second. But the latest is the General Electric shareholders meeting on April 26th. So that's 2 days from now, Justin, correct?
That's correct, Vicki.
And what are you seeking to do at the shareholders meeting in terms of, I guess, exposing the shareholders to new information?
Yeah, sure. So, well, first of all, for your hay fever, Vicki, I recommend something that starts in at least 20 minutes out here on the East Coast, and that's called the happy hour. Generally
I love him.
Most ailments.
You know what? I'm for that. God, I'm glad I had you on the program, Justin. Thank you. Dr. Danhoff, good to have you.
So, on the public policy front, though, so what we've done here is we filed a shareholder resolution that's actually going to be voted on at the General Electric shareholder meeting. That really kind of exposes some of the extremist groups that General Electric has been funding through its charitable operations. I think that a lot of times you hear from the far left liberal investment crowd clamoring over transparency in corporate political activity, and really what they're actually looking for is transparency involved with corporations donating to anybody with an R next to their name or any sort of conservative outfit. But a lot of folks don't know that much of what corporate America does in the philanthropic world really funds some of the most dramatically left-wing organizations that exist. And so we just highlighted a couple in our proposal. And basically, our proposal asks GE for some very, very simple things. When you make a donation to Group X, A, can you tell us why? And, what benefit to the company or society at large is created by the donation? Because, of course, that's the point of charity, right? And it's a very simple request. If you're going to use shareholder money, people invest their money in General Electric, and General Electric is in turn then going to donate it to a charity, which, by the way, folks can just donate to charities directly if they want. They don't need to invest in a corporation and then have the corporation then go give money to controversial charities. Basically, what's the purpose behind it? It's a very simple ask. And we highlight three groups that I think a lot of folks would be kind of shocked to know that corporate America is helping to back. And they are Planned Parenthood, the Clinton Foundation, and a group called the Center for American Progress. All three backed by General Electric investor money.
Wow.
And so that's what our proposal gets to the height of, is why in the world, in such a highly politicized environment that we live in, would General Electric be backing the largest abortion provider in America, the Clinton Foundation, which is under multiple sets of FBI investigations regarding potential pay-for-play situations, and the Center for American Progress, which was, of course, run for many years by John Podesta, Hillary Clinton's chief of staff, when she ran for president.
You have named probably the three lightning rod charities, if you can call them that, in this country. Planned Parenthood, the Clinton Foundation, and Center for American Progress. Was GE shareholders supposed to be simply underwriting the entire political donation process for Hillary Clinton's attempt to become president?
Yeah, that's exactly what we want to know, right? And we've asked General Electric this before, specifically regarding the Clinton Foundation, and we didn't get answers. And that's why we've followed up with the proposal, because, again, what is the purpose of your charitable donation, and does it outweigh the risks? And now that we are shining light on these very controversial organizations that GE is involved in, we're hoping to increase that risk balance part of the equation, right? Because if they can donate and no one talks about it, then, of course, the benefit outweighs the risk, because it advances the liberal agenda of some of the board and some of the executive teams at General Electric. But if we shine light on it and conservative investors, free market investors, pro-life investors stand up and say, hey, wait a minute, that's not what I thought I was investing in, then we can try and rebalance out the equation And that's part of what we're doing here at the meeting.
Yeah, so listen, tell us why you thought the hyper partisan hit squad at Center for American Progress was worthy of a charitable contribution from General Electric. This isn't, I mean, if General Electric had helped to underwrite the American Legislative Exchange Council, then the left would have been losing their mind. And mind you, all ALEC does is a bunch of legislators get together and they come up with model legislation. And lots of companies fund ALEC, and they also fund the national. Now I can't think of the liberal version of ALEC. There's a NCSL, the liberal version. They'll fund both groups. Let state legislators get together. When it's ALEC, they take to Twitter, they create pressure. But here's General Electric. I mean, Center for American Progress is a hit squad. It's a political hit squad. And it's getting underwritten by one of the wealthiest, multinationals on the planet.
Yeah, that's right. And so that's part of what we're trying to do with this proposal, too. And we submitted a similar proposal to the Apple Corporation earlier this year, is because of that fact that you just point out. Liberal investors file hundreds of these resolutions every single year. And they attack just who you mentioned, the American Legislative Exchange Council. To what effect? Over 100 corporations, because of proposals like that, dropped their membership in ALEC because the pressure actually works when it's applied in this equation. And so they not only do they go after ALEC, believe me, the Chamber of Commerce, they're on the list, the National Association of Manufacturers, and the like, and they all get attacked year after year after year after year through this resolution process. So part of what we're doing is saying, hey, guess what? Two can play at that game. Because if you liberals who are submitting these proposals really want to know about transparency, well, we'll peel back a few layers of the onion ourselves. And we'll show that groups are donating to Greenpeace. They're donating to the Sierra Club. As you said, the Center for American Progress, you cannot get more radical than the Center for American Progress. If folks don't know much about them, we actually have a profile on our website. Come to nationalcenter.org and you can find it. But this group, again, was run by John Podesta with very close ties to the Obama administration, wrote the blueprint for the Obama administration. You can actually go to their website and still read the blueprint. It's up there today for how they were going to expand executive power. And now it's kind of comical because President Trump is now in office and using some of that same executive power that President Obama expanded beyond what any president had ever done in the modern era. And General Electric, get this, you're going to love it, they have lodged complaints about President Trump and his use of executive power. But they're the ones that underwrote the Center for American Progress, which wrote the playbook
with shareholder money.
Expand the executive branch.
Yeah, this wasn't Jeff Immelt cutting a personal check. This was using shareholder money to make these contributions on behalf of the company itself. Again, Planned Parenthood, which dumped huge amounts of money into Hillary Clinton's election campaign. With the other one you had mentioned was, the Clinton Foundation, which, as you had pointed out accurately, is under investigation for fraud. But you know what? Here's the thing. You're out there, Justin. How many others are out there doing conservative or free market shareholder activism? Imagine if we had somebody, tasked in a group in every single state that could identify when the shareholder meetings were going to come up and find out. Because here's what you and I talked about before. If somebody's got shares in GE, they can call Justin and say, I want Justin to speak on behalf of me as a shareholder. You can do that. You can speak as their proxy. You can represent people. Can you imagine if there just a little bit of effort were put into these operations so that conservatives could actually know some of the companies they're invested in and what their political leanings are? That'd be amazing.
Oh, yeah. Not just on this front of, going after who corporations are involved with, but the whole sphere of shareholder activism is 99.9% liberal going after corporate America. While conservatives don't realize the danger that, we are under from corporate America undermining liberty and undermining value. And so, that's the big pitching point that I try and, remind folks of. President Obama, he didn't even know what was in Obamacare because corporations, unions, Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid were writing it. And those corporations are still around, but President Obama's out of office. When it comes to some of these very stringent environmental regulations, they're actually written by the bigger businesses to squash their smaller competitors who can't afford to reach that regulatory hurdle. And so, we need to realize as conservatives that because a company is out there making a profit doesn't make them a conservative engine, a bastion of free market ideals. Very often, once a company reaches a certain size, they try and team up with government to crowd out new competitors in their marketplace. And it's the complete opposite of free market. It's crony statism.
You know what? And that's a good point, because we've also, as conservatives, allowed the media to present this nonsense, and it is nonsense. If you actually take a look at the top 100 contributors to federal elections, you will find that there are, the first 20, which include an enormous number of corporations, are donating almost exclusively to liberal causes. That we've allowed the media to paint this picture that, the Republicans are the party of big business. The businesses, backing the Republicans. If you take a look at some of the largest businesses in America and on the planet, they're not backing conservative free market candidates. They're backing anybody who is willing to continue the crony, lobbyist-based relationship with government that these companies have, and that's usually the liberals.
Well, that's right. And I think that, conservatives do a good job on half of the circle, right? When what I call what goes on here, I live in Arlington, Virginia, right across the river. I stare at D.C. and try not to vomit most days. But what I see is almost every Fortune 500 company with a presence. I see a lot of federal buildings, but more and more I'm seeing corporate influence. And what it is when big business and big government grow, they generally are growing together. And when I say that, it kind of like think of a symbiotic yin and yang circle growing in this disgusting blob. Well, the conservatives do a very good job of attacking that government side of the circle. We realize the bloat. We realize things like the EPA and the Department of Education, the EEOC. There's redundancies on top of redundancies on top of inefficiencies. And we do a good job of attacking that. But we ignore the other half of the circle that is working hand in hand. And again, I point out that politicians come and go, but these corporations are still there. And so that's why we've chosen at the Free Enterprise Project to focus on the other half of the circle. Also, because unlike politicians, which are just generally bought and paid off, as evidenced by all of these corporations that left the American Legislative Exchange Council just by getting a shareholder proposal, corporations are sometimes much more amenable to pressure campaigns because they're all about image, right? And so if enough pressure has come to board down on General Electric, for example, because enough pro-life Americans say, hey, what in the world are you giving all of this money to Planned Parenthood for? Well, there could be some cause and effect there. And so that's why we choose to operate on that side of the sphere. And as you point out, hey, anybody out there listening, take a look at your, retirement fund. I bet you own plenty of shares. And if you don't want to go to a, certain meeting, but you know that this company is being a bad actor, track us down at nationalcenter.org, reach us on Facebook or Twitter, and let me know about it. And I'll see if it's something that we can take on for you.
Exactly, and I wish we could clone you in this idea. And it's just one of the many ways you can actually go about unwinding this, as you say, that other half of the circle there. You've had some successes, too. I mean, the idea, this isn't all just falling on deaf ears. When the shareholders are presented with this information, the shareholders demand action. And so that's the idea here, is to have those shareholders say, hey, yeah, how come we are funding a bunch of left-wing radicals who despise America and the free market itself? Justin, thanks very much for being on the program today, as always.
Thanks, Vicki. Have a great day. Justin
Danhof from the National Center for Public Policy Research, also the Free Enterprise Project, that is under the umbrella of the National Center. Nationalcenter.org for more information, and right at the top of the page, you can click on Free Enterprise Project and read all of the different press releases and reports that have been posted up there in the last couple of years. We'll be right back.